Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Karen Chaston, and welcome to Beyond Loss, Loving Life with Karen Chaston. Today, I am very excited to actually introduce my very, very special guest, Prati Bhatt. Hello, Prati. How are you?
Hello, Karen. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, so cool to have you all the way from Perth. I think most people realise that I'm on the Gold Coast, so thank you for getting up early because I know you're 2 hours behind us, and we've obviously been chatting for a little while to make sure that all of our tech worked. And yes, I thought we were going to be a little bit late, but here we are on time. So thank you for that. So Prati, you are a very beautiful lady, and if I am correct, you are Indian born?
Yes, I am born in India. Yeah.
Yes. So tell us a little bit of your journey, because moving country is one of the greatest loss and also advantages that a lot of people can go through, because, you know, I grew up in Sydney and I moved to Queensland when I was 19, but I had a lot of family still in Sydney, and sure, it was only an hour and a half flight away, but moving, you know, completely away, completely different culture. Can we talk about a little bit of your experience at that? Because you were a young adult when you came to Australia, correct?
Correct. So yes, you are right. Whether you realize it, whether we all realize it or not, moving can be a loss in our subconscious. I was only 21 when I moved here, and I moved basically to do my master's here. Correct.
A master's in?
Master's in advertising. Well, actually, I came here to do my master's in finance because I was just conditioned by the society in India that, you know, finance and I don't know that there are four categories. There, you're a doctor, or you're an accountant, or you're an engineer. That's very common in India. So I was conditioned. But as soon as I came here, I dropped my finance and I did advertising because I wanted to.
And how did your parents feel about that, or how did your mum feel about that? Because your dad also passed away at a young age, which we'll talk about in a sec.
Yes, he did. Um, well, actually, I would say the fear is in our minds because when I took the decision and then I told my mom so that it's easier. Sometimes you got to make a decision. If you are into too much of a discussion, you never reach somewhere. So I took the decision and was very good at it. And then I told my mom, but as I said, the fear is in your mind. She did not overreact. She didn't. She said like, okay. I mean, it's just because I think she thought maybe that's what she wants. So yeah.
That reminds me, just last night I was watching an interview with Matthew McConaughey and Oprah, and he did more or less exactly the same thing. He was at university studying, and he rang his dad and he said, look, I'm going to leave university and I'm going to become an actor. And he was scared that what his dad was going to say. And then his dad just said, okay, sounds like you've really thought it through. And he says, all I can say is make sure you become a world-class actor. And that's all his dad said. And then he did. So it makes such a difference when you do have the blessing of your family and your parents to not only respect your decision, but also to back you on what you choose to do. What do you feel?
I could not, like you, absolutely. Like it matters so much when your family is backing you on your decisions. Because no matter how strong you are, because obviously I grew up without a father and I thought like I'm a super strong person, like, you know, nothing can affect me. But that's not true. In your subconscious, your family matters to you. What do they think about you? Are they believing in your decisions? Are they judging you? They those things pressurizes you subconsciously. So when I heard that ease factor from my mother, I think my strength was doubled. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Like, you know, I'm gonna do advertising. I don't know anything about it. My bachelor's was in finance, so I'm gonna jump into a totally different puddle. And it's going to be challenging. I would not know anything for 6 months. And that was the case. But then I passed and I had good grades by the end of the 2 years. And I wrote pieces that on something that I would have never written in India. I wrote pieces on sex in advertising, which was very much out of my comfort zone. So, you do wonders when you get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, you always thrive when you get out of your comfort zone, don't you? But it is scary to take that step. And look, I've got a master's in accounting because I used to be a CFO, as you know, and that I honestly feel that I wish I had more of a marketing background. Actually, also think I wish I would have loved to have had more of a psychology background as well. But marketing and finance, just in the workplace, they just seem to clash. Whereas when they actually work together and understand each other of what they're doing, it really does take a company to the next level, because we require marketing and we obviously require finance and accounting and all those sort of, those skills. But it does make such a huge difference. In my own business, I struggled for a long time because I didn't understand marketing.
I second that. Marketing is so important. But I would also like to add that the more I have understood and learned marketing outside my master's, way more than I learned inside my master's. To be honest, I wrote pieces, which was fun. I'm going to use that experience in my life. And I still do, that I do say that tea is sexy to sometimes portray the sex appeal of a tea. And but that's about it. But then there's so much to marketing. It's such a deep ocean, and none of them was taught in the masters. So I think whether or not you have done your masters or anything about it, you learn it once you pick your business. Once you pick what game you want to play, things will start coming to you.
Yeah, but then in the last 10 years as well, Prati, you sort of realize like marketing is completely different. The way we market, where we market. 10 years ago, there wasn't Facebook like there is now. There wasn't all this social media of ways of getting ourselves out there. LinkedIn wasn't either the major player as well. Before I ask the next question, I'm going to say hello. You can see the things here. So you can see the comments.
I do see. And someone said something really beautiful, that I have aura.
Michelle. Yeah, that is so beautiful. Oh, isn't it lovely? Pinks, yellows, and mauve. That is so gorgeous. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Teresa. And hi, Johanna. Thank you for being with us today. So, as we've established, your father passed away more or less when you were born. Is that correct?
That's correct. I have never seen him. I've seen his photographs.
Yeah. Wow. Do you feel him around you?
No. No.
Okay.
Not at all. I do meditate every day, but I feel that he left. I strongly, powerfully feel that he left.
Okay.
Yeah. And but that's a very happy thing. That's why I'm really, really happy, because I wouldn't want somebody to leave to stay. Not for me. And they shouldn't, because it's their job. If I'm born, their job is done.
Yeah.
They should be free after that. That's their journey, and I'm happy that. Yeah.
It's interesting because, like, my son passed away, as you know, over 9 years ago. But he comes and goes. Like, he left, but he's always around me. He's always guiding me. I talk to him all the time. I swear he plants ideas into my head. Which I am really cool about, because there is no way I would be doing anything that I'm doing now if he hadn't have, passed away. I'd probably still be a CFO, or who knows what I'd be doing. But so that's an interesting that you don't. But then I guess you've never physically known him.
Never. But then that's big thing that I understood. Just because you have never known physically, and I used to believe that, because I don't know him physically, I wouldn't feel the pain. But the pain is unreal.
I can imagine.
The society, first, will have to comprehend as a child that your life is different. That it's going to be different from other people. There's going to be, in parents meeting, there's going to be 2 parents attending the meeting. Yours going to be 1. Sometimes your mother is also working because she's the only bread earner now. So, and like, then you have to, then there's your grandparents that you would look after. So that every phase, starting from since you're born to and then you enter school, and other kids, their parents, they make you feel different because they don't know anything different.
Yes.
And they're threatened by something, or they can't wrap their mind around something different. So again, and I grew up in a very modern society in India, but then it's still challenging. So yeah.
Okay, so I like that you said that, because I did my degree at Bond University on the Gold Coast, and it had a lot of Indian students there. A lot of, it's an international private university, and I learnt a lot about India through my fellow students, which was great, because when I grew up in my it was more or less a white policy Australia, we didn't mix with a lot of different cultures. So I loved my time at university, hearing different things, different customs, all those sort of things. And one of them was that single women, widows as well, would never live by themselves. They always had to have a man in the house. So is that correct? Is that what you found?
No. So no, that was not the case. That is not the case in India at all. I think you will have to go to
the areas that these women were from.
Yeah, you will have to go to really tribal spaces in India to actually find that. But not in places like I grew up on, like places like Mumbai, Ahmedabad, where I'm from, Gujarat. You will have to go really remote to actually find that tradition. In cities, no, there are many young women who are divorced or widowed, or they're all living their own life on their own terms. They go out, they have relationships, they just live like any other person. So, but yet they get affected in their mind. But no, there's no conditioning from the society anymore. Not in the modern cities, at least. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. And I must admit, it was a while since I went to university, so who knows how it's changed, because it was well over 20 years ago. Yeah. So coming to Australia, tell us about that, your experiences, obviously experiencing the opposite of what I did, the different cultures.
Yes. I was super excited when I was picked by the University of Perth. I was picked by ECU, Edith Cowan University, which I think I found my grounds really strong at. And I still live, after 12 years, my home right now is still about 5 kilometers away from Edith Cowan. I just don't know. I fell in love with this surroundings, and I'm still here. Coming here was a bit of a cultural shock when it came to quietness. I think when you're growing up in India, it's never quiet. It's loud, always 24/7. There's chaos, there's traffic, and I think that was my biggest shock. Everything suddenly felt like pin drop silence, and it's Perth. It's not Melbourne or Sydney that will keep up with the pace of India or something. So I think that was challenging to have such quietness, and that gives you time to reflect. And sometimes you've never done it before, so it's too challenging to reflect.
Yeah. So it explains, was it just the traffic, or was it just the lifestyle, the fact that shops do actually close quite early and all those sort of things?
Oh, for 2 years, I couldn't wrap my head around why are the shops closed? I didn't know how to shop. I was so lost how to shop, because sometimes we shop at 8, 7, whenever we feel like whenever we finish our work. If I'm hungry at 12 in the midnight, I have so many places to just go and eat, and it's safe. I would just drive and go and eat and come back. India is a very safe place, if you think, and I never had to worry. So oh, it was such a shock. I was like, where is everything? Where is everybody? It's 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and why are the doors closed? Where are street lights closed? Like, what's wrong with the shops? 2009, Perth was dead quiet. Now
Yeah.
Perth has grown a lot, but that was so. It felt like, oh my God, how am I going to live like this? But it took time for me to find friends or inner circle where then I created a life of my own where we would go to each other's place and still do what we would do. But it took a while to get there, and there was a bit of a shock. And then there was a lot of food shock as well because I was
Yeah.
brought up as a vegetarian in a Hindu family, so and I was like, oh my God, where is food? Everything I would see it was around me was a chicken treat or salad was the only option. So I would go so hungry. Doing university, I would not have time to cook all the time, and I knew how to cook, but not that good. So I was like struggling. So yeah, I was like, what do I eat? What do I eat? So that was a big shock. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can imagine that because you think about how we have, with more vegetarian choices and ways to cook, and the whole lot of it has really opened up over the last 10, 11 years.
Now it has. I'm so glad.
But have you learned how to cook?
Oh yes.
Excellent.
I always
Okay.
knew, but I've gotten better.
Yeah, exactly. We can always learn more, can't we? Okay, so after your degree, you decided to stay in Australia. Was that easy?
No, not the first 2, 3 years. It was very challenging.
Okay, so let's talk about that because it is about moving beyond loss because obviously you came to Australia, you loved it, you decided to stay. So, but then obviously you had to get a visa in order to be able to stay. So talk about that.
Yes, I needed visa, but at that time it was slightly easier to just get my permanent residency because I was very academic and I had really good grades. And as the university picked me from India to come and study here and be a part of it, on the basis of my grades, I got my permanent residency quite fast as well. So that was not an issue, but it still was a stressful situation because I had to do a lot of extensions, wrapping my head around it, and there were people who would make you afraid. They would be like, oh, if you don't do one thing right, there's gonna be so many myths. People will say if you don't do one thing right, you'll be jailed, and I was like, why? So that was like, I don't know, people would tell me all the wrong things, I would say. And I was like, why would someone do that to me? What did I do? So there was a lot of fear. First 2 to 3 years was a lot of things to accomplish within that very set time frame. And I think that we were not taught to how to live stress-free at that time. No one taught us how to be what's a stress-free living. So everything was a stressful situation. Dealing with little things was like, oh no, I have to go to the visa office tomorrow. Everything was stressful. Nothing was like, okay, then do it. It wasn't like that. So I think it matters a lot that what you have been taught and how to deal with little situations. You have your assignments, you have your exams, you have your rent coming up for your home. You're a student, you're always broke. You're a student, you're always broke, period. So, and then you have your visa fees and there was so much stress, financial stress, like, oh, if I can't pay the rent, then where would I live kind of stress. That became really challenging the first 3 years. And not knowing a soul. I did not know anyone in Perth. I created my own contacts from scratch. So that everything got really, really stressful. And then the cultural, my stress was getting onto my work. At one point, I wasn't performing well. So I was then afraid of what if they're going to fire me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's really good for you that you shared that. Thank you, because a lot of people just think it's just them. It's not everyone else who is in this situation quite stressful. And I found it quite interesting. You said that you could actually go from being a student straight to a permanent resident. How does that work? Because I thought you'd have to get a visa first. I didn't think they would just allow you to become a resident. You must have had to, is it just an application or?
No, it's a point system. So you have to gather some amount of points, like 100 points or something. And at that time, if what you're doing is in demand, a skill set that Australia really needs, then you get an advantage. Then you apply for it.
Okay, right.
It took me 2 years to receive that. You get on a bridging visa when you apply for it, and then they approve it. So that's still the process. I think that's still the process for Australia.
Okay.
But then the skill sets have changed. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Obviously being born here, you don't I've never had anything to do with anything like that. So that's really cool. Okay. So now let's talk about what you're doing, because I just love what you're doing and how you got into it.
Yes. Thank you so much. I think that's another situation where there is a bit of a loss involved there as well. I think I made one wrong decision. I got a job in finance, and that was my first office job offered to me after I did 2 to 3 years of Subway as a waitress, which I would not wrap my head around because I would never see myself to be waitress for a longer time. And that got stuck into my mind that I'm so academic and why would I do that? So I think that was a very stressful situation. Then when I got the job, I did it for like 3 or 4 years until I got offered to become a face of the company, as in like the front line, and like, actually acquire customer acquisition. And I wanted to learn that. I was really hungry to step up. And at the same time, I was offered by a bank a managerial position without any bank experience. There were 7 other people with bank experience, and then there was me, and they took me. So in the interview, so I was like, okay. My one advice to the whole universe, everybody on this planet, listen to your intuition no matter how good things look on papers.
Yeah.
My intuition was to leave the job that I was doing just then, where I was asked to become the front foot, and go to the bank. And I didn't. I thought like, no, I'm betraying the company that I'm being with. So I think I was taught a lot of loyal values, but then that doesn't help you.
Okay. I love that, because you actually were not, you chose not to portray the company, but you portrayed like you did the dirty on yourself.
Correct.
Like, yeah, that's amazing that you came to that. Yes.
Absolutely. So to be loyal to that company, I betrayed myself, which is the worst thing you can do.
Yes.
So you can't be loyal to someone until you're not loyal to yourself. And I didn't listen to my intuitions. I let the bank job go. And that's it. It hit hard. Next day, they found a reason to fire me. So I had no job.
Oh, wow. So why did they fire you?
I don't think they ever wanted to give me that front foot.
All right.
They heard that I was offered by a bank. It's just that it was their way of not allowing me to get something. They were just not very nice people. And it was just their idea that let us, like, push, let's play around.
Yeah. Okay. So then you were out of job. So you could have gone to the bank. You chose not to. So then what?
I approached the bank again next day, literally. I was exhausted. When it happened, I was broken. I think I've never been so devastated. I was very broken. I was angry on myself because everything else that happened in my life, I wasn't blaming myself. But this was the time when I blamed myself. I was like, I can't believe what you did, Prati. So I went to the bank and asked again. I became brave and I was like, you know what? Can I do it now? And they were like, no. So, and I was like, oh, they're being egoistic, but it's my fault also. So there were so many thoughts. And then I joined another company, which was again really horrible. But then that got me thinking that this is not my calling. I'm no longer designed for finance.
Yeah.
It just wasn't happening. It's just nothing was adding. And I found my tea master. I actually met him in a party where we were talking. And I was also extremely passionate about tea, but then I just thought, like, I love drinking tea.
Yeah.
I told him something that triggered him that day. He was in his 80s. And I told him one thing, that I have never found a cup of tea that satisfies me since I've left India. Nothing is good enough. Nothing. I will throw everything down the drain. And he smiled. I did not know I was talking to the ex-Unilever and Bhratt ex-superintendent. I did not know that.
Oh, wow.
It was just a random tea conversation. And he was smiling, and he said, like, you sound like very, very passionate, and you sound like you understand flavors. And I was like, maybe, but I just want a good cup of tea. And then while leaving the room that day, he said, you can't find one. And I was like, what does that mean? And he said, if you're looking for something so badly, it's often inside you. You will never find it until you create it, and I can help you create it. So since that day, I never looked back. I realized who he was, and he trained me to become a tea master.
Oh, wow. Okay, so explain what a tea master is for everyone. And hi, Jason. Good to see you here again.
I'm not a tea master. He was. A tea taster is someone who would understand the importance of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Priority, that's the basic. And once we understand the seasons, we understand the crop. There's only one bush, Camellia sinensis, out of which every 5,000 variety or more is created. How that happens is everything starting from the crop to the harvest to season, land, weather, rain, soil, all of that. That's where 80% of your job is done. The rest is, once it's harvested, then my job is to understand that what kind of machineries they're using in the drying and sorting process. And then I taste them, approve them, blend them, or sometimes use single estate. Blending is a very difficult process, because then you will have to understand how do you match two teas that will complement each other, flavors that are missing in it. An English breakfast is not born, it's created, actually.
Okay.
So it's one of the most complex thing to create. It's cheap because it's sold in bulk. It's not cheap when it's created. It's the most expensive.
Oh, wow. I personally don't like English breakfast. Don't we wreck it by putting milk and sugar with it?
We do. We don't put milk and sugar when we are doing the tasting. Otherwise, we would not understand the palate.
That's what I would have thought, because it just sort of thing like, and I've got one of your teas here. I've got your jasmine green tea, which I think is absolutely lovely.
Thank you.
I'd highly recommend them. So they all come from India. So you don't personally grow the teas, is this correct?
Correct. It's very hard for me to personally grow the trees, so I work with the farmers. The farmers does their job. An estate is a very large space where I have to own an estate if I grow a tea. I can't grow that bush just anywhere. It has to be very specific climatic conditions for it to prosper.
Yeah.
So that's why I work with farmers and allow them to do their job. But I work with very specific estates with the kind of tea that I would work with and prefer to give it to my customers. So green tea is a process before the black tea.
Yep.
And oolong tea is a process between the green and the black tea.
And the white tea, is that the process before green tea?
No, a white tea is a green tea. So The difference is the leaf that we are using.
Okay.
White tea is the bud of the bush, so it's very silver, and it's unopened, and it's not been affected by the sun just yet. So that's why it has silver hair follicles. Kind of, it will have silvery. Those are the hair, and that's why it looks silver. It's called silver needle often. So that's the white tea. And it's very delicate, and it's hand-picked. You cannot use a machine for that. You will bruise it and break it.
Okay.
So that's why it's one of the most expensive teas. So the white tea that I sell is $100 for 100 gram. And,
wow.
And I sell that very well. People buy it. They love it.
Yeah. Who loves it?
Oh, people who would appreciate certain kind of very subtle, soft flavors. They would love their white tea. So I do have a certain clientele who would enjoy their white teas, which I prefer to buy it from southern India at this stage.
Yeah. Okay, it's interesting, and I know it's confusing to a lot of people because they think white tea is English breakfast with milk, which is quite confusing.
No, white tea and English breakfast are very different.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, just the common person, if you said I want a white tea, they will think it's English breakfast with milk in it.
Okay, sorry, I know what you mean.
Yeah, whereas it's not. It's actually the leaf, as we just said. Yeah,
correct. And that's the kind of white tea. But if you order, that's your culture, that's what I learned as well. If that's your culture and you order a white tea in your cafe, they would give you English breakfast with milk. That's how you see a white coffee or a white tea. But that's just a terminology that you use. In our terminology, but white tea would be different. And the buyers, certain kind of buyers, would know what they're doing. So
yeah, exactly. And I do drink a white tea, as in the leaf. But I can't remember who. I haven't had yours, but I have had. Can't remember who it is. It comes in a white box, and it is. I actually do like it. It doesn't seem to have the tang of a green tea, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it doesn't have that tang. It doesn't have that astringent quality, and it doesn't sit on the back of it. Some green tea that is not done well has higher amount of essential oils in them. They're not dried enough, and they can leave a really bitter taste in your mouth, on the back of your tongue. So white tea would never do that. It hasn't retained that quality just yet. So yeah.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you get the tea to Australia, or is it packaged overseas, or what's your process so people can know where to get it from? And while you're typing that, I'll put your website in so people can figure it out.
Sure.
So what's your process?
How I bring it here?
Yeah.
Okay. I tie up with the farmers that I prefer for certain teas, for certain season. I specialize in Indian teas only and seasonal harvest only. Now when I say that, there's a reason why, because some people would blend a lot of season, even last year, together. I don't do that because your taste buds are at the peak of that season for that tea. And you will enjoy the current season the most. So I love playing with taste. I love the factor that how your body is so designed to understand flavors according to the season. To simplify that, eat a mango in winter. It's not the same.
Okay. So what was that? In winter, it's what? Sorry?
Just to simplify that process, that how your taste buds are at peak in the season, try eating a mango that you have stored in the refrigerator in winter.
You can't.
It would not taste the same because it has passed, and now your taste buds are ready for summer fruits or winter fruits. Sorry. So that's why seasonal things are one of the finest things that you will experience. And when it comes to tea, I I like to be the finest. I like to give the finest. So, for example, Assam right now would give me a really good autumn English breakfast. So my autumn teas would arrive soon, and I'll be working with the farmers to bring them over here. Then I will blend them. Blending is required for English breakfast. Really, really long process is required. Darjeeling may not require blending, depends, but I will receive a Darjeeling from autumn. Darjeeling doesn't need any milk and sugar. It's black tea only.
Yeah.
I'll get oolongs and whites from down south. Assam and Darjeeling are up north on the east. So they're about 2,000 kilometers apart, but there's a reason why I do that.
Oh, wow. So how do you know whether it needs blending or not? Is it just by looking at it or smelling it, or how?
Oh, no, tasting it. Smelling, yes. So the fragrance will tell me a little bit, but it needs a lot of tasting. Sometimes to create a good English breakfast, I would need 100 cups of tea tasting until I'm really convinced, and it will take a month sometimes for me to create that body, a lot of batches of tea that I would like to give a body to English breakfast, because English breakfast is a very heavy body tea with a lot of maltiness, base level tea. You would get people that umami flavor where they wake up like this, and you have to make sure that you are matching their emotions. And emotions are the hardest thing to match. English breakfast kind of goes a long way back in people's minds. They must have been drinking it from that childhood, from the parents, and it's very complex in their mind. So if none of the tea could convince my taste buds, I think of it the same way when I give it to people. So then I have to make sure that they're enjoying their emotional connection with the English breakfast. And then it takes time for me to really create a good blend, which gives them the umami, the happiness.
Okay, cool. So what's one of your most unusual teas then, or blends?
Oh, that's a very good question. What's my most unusual tea? I like all of them, but I would say my chai.
Okay.
It's just because it's very cultural and traditional.
Mm-hmm.
It does require a very specific kind of tea. The teas that I see here used to create chai is not chai. You cannot mix long leaf tea to create chai. It's just would not give you that X factor.
Yep.
And that's what I see all the companies doing, and it's fine. It works. Their marketing is perfect. It works for them, but I think my niche would be different. So my chai is something that's unusual in terms of the tea used in it, in terms of the specific spice that I would want. No, it won't take anything and every spice under the sun. It would taste horrible. So, yeah, and the amount of essential oils I want in it, the kind of milk that I would like to use, everything matters. So chai, much, and I've released a range of exotic chais. So yeah.
Interesting process. So if anyone would like to check out your website, just double check that I've got this spelt right. I'm pretty sure it has, yes. Teaphoria?
Teaphoria, teaphoria.com.au.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you can see that. So if anyone would like to check out your website and see how you do your process and everything. So what's your plans for the future?
My future plans are grow a tea culture in Australia where I can connect people with tea. That's something that I really, really, really want to establish. And I want people to connect with themselves with tea, explore their taste buds, and understand that tea drinking is like a very, very special emotion. Tea drinkers are very different people than coffee drinkers. They understand spiritual connections. They don't go for coffee because they want to have a meeting. They go for tea because they're in love with it. And when you're in love with things, everything changes.
Yeah.
So I'm creating that rippling effect of tea and the stories behind it and why they love what they love. And I've created a Facebook group where take it to the next level. Basically, really want to bridge, and on the business side, we want to bridge India and Australia with sustainable farming, where I would really like to involve local farms and local farmers of Australia to grow spices and herbs for me that would grow the local community and bring business to Australia and bring business to India at the same time, so that both countries can not just grow in farm but politically as well. So in my mind, business size has to be grown politically. So that's what I think.
Wow. So do we have the right climate though to grow that?
I'm pretty sure that we can pull off some herbs, definitely. I'm pretty sure that I can use a lot of orchards and a lot of fruits that we are already growing. I would like that to be home businesses where not just farmers, but people can be involved, and I have a plan for that. How can they be involved? If that can be implemented, it could be super amazing. So yes, we do have a right climate for a lot of things. Not everywhere, but some areas, yes.
Oh, okay, cool. So have you got that like on your Facebook group? If you're in this area, reach out, let's start the process of, home farming and things like that?
No, this is something that I've just written down on my business plans, but I would go live with it very soon because I have another loss, obviously. I went to Melbourne in 2016 when I was doing training for Teaphoria, and I just recently got divorced. So I'm relaunching Teaphoria. So there's a lot of elephant's effort that's going into relaunching. And that's why I've created phases where I would reach that phase instead of putting everything together.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great though, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who will watch this even now or later that may even turn around and go, wow, that's something different, because, a lot of people, I think it's interesting. It'd be so different for some people, because a lot of people have farms that if they're in that sort of right climate, growing another crop of something would always help and bring in extra income for them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So will you do classes online and showing people what's required? Do you do videos on it and things like that? Or is it, as you said, it's only early stages?
Well, now it's only early stages for me because of my relaunch, because moving back to Perth from Melbourne, I will do those once I go back to India, and I would have to stay there for another 2-3 months to understand it deeper as to what I would need in Australia. And also I will have to connect with more farmers, speak to them personally. Before I even put everything out there, I would have to go drive to these farmers and ask them questions and look at their land. And there's nothing for me to give until I absorb that information myself.
Yeah.
That once I do that research, then I can put it out there that, okay, this is what we got, and this is the kind of help we would need, and these are the kind of people who could help us or be a part of the journey. So that thing is something that I would do, but I think I'll have to wait until the COVID ends so I can start driving.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be at least another couple of years before you actually get to fly back to India, the way things are. So do you have children?
No, I don't have children.
That makes it easier. Well, not that it's easy to have a divorce, but it makes it a little bit easier if you don't have to, share custody and things like that.
It sure does. Absolutely. It takes away that bit of a pain.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're running out of time. So is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I would just say, I don't know, I don't want to add anything about me. I want to add it about people. I think it's enough about me. I'm sure there are people here who must have gone through losses, and they must have felt at some point that there's nothing left for them to do, or devastating, or what decision they have taken, what way they're thinking, and moments where they are regretting or something that was taken away from them. But There's a beautiful journey of a circle. If something is taken away from them, it's because something extraordinary is waiting to be filled in their cups. It's just that they have evolved to a much higher space, that whatever is in their space at that time doesn't match their frequency anymore. So be ready for something extraordinary and dare to step into your passion, dare to step into your darkness, look into your darkness. You can walk away from other people's darkness, you can't walk away from your own darkness. So sit in calmly still into your darkness. Look deeper until it scares you so much. Once the fear is, it can't stay there forever. The fear will be gone at one point. When you don't move, it moves. And that's when you know your real passion. It will come to you, I promise.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That's amazing advice. It's so beautiful. And everyone, as always, if you would like to download my Life After Loss ebook, please go to karenchaston.com/life after loss, which would be great. So I don't think there's any other comments apart from hello and thank you, Kerry. It has been really interesting. Even I've learned, and I must admit, I am a tea drinker. I think my last coffee was like, probably about 95, 96. So yeah, I gave up coffee because it just owned me and I didn't like that. Whereas I really enjoy a great cup of tea, but it doesn't own me. Like if I don't have it, it's okay sort of thing. So yeah.
Wow. Can I steal that? It's amazing.
Go for it.
It's free. It doesn't, wow. Thank you.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Take it. That's it. And plus I think coffee has aftertaste, whereas tea doesn't. And I didn't like that either. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for being here. And thank you, Prati. It's been really great chatting with you today.
I had so much fun. Thank you so much, Karen.
Okay. Bye, everybody. See you again next week.